feeders down here, and
Yeah.
then the middle would be a certain distance, and then
Yep.
the top would wind up being
But you
clear.
can get these things for under $5 and have them sitting on every table in the house. It's all ready to go.
And you can put them on a little chain around your neck,
Yeah, then you look 10 years
and
older
then
than
you
you
look
are.
even older. It says,
Oh, Homeland Security
What
Secretary.
is that?
I'm just looking here, but when you, on vacation leave, you might have the days, do you include the weekends? Or do you only count the working days?
Same with the holidays too, so yeah. There it is.
Early bird,
Yeah.
6:59.
Fill the Q and A, filling these out for the auditors. Question here.
How are we doing now?
I guess they'll get this and then they'll. It's, do we suspect X or Y or Z, or if we know of any X or Y or Z or? No, this is, I don't think we've, that's why I was a
These are the
little,
new auditors.
new auditors and they,
Pick two, well, I picked two, but they go to you, two staff members and then two management members.
Okay.
And you complete them up as best you can. If you don't know an answer, just leave it blank or something. You mail it directly to them.
Sick time isn't included. in
Recording in progress.
time.
The gang's all here.
Hmm.
Like the time is on the clock, so call the meeting to order. And Sylvia, I'm gonna ask everybody to rise. You can lead us into the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's getting a little weird.
Waiting room. Thank you.
Now, this is the time for public comments.
I can't be that fast, I read them. I have nothing to say right now. Glad to see everybody is here.
Let the minutes reflect that there were no public comments. And I'll ask for approval of the minutes of January 16th, January 26th. 16th was a regular meeting, 26th was a special meeting for the purpose of approving the warning.
Want them separate or together? We were all here, I think.
Were we all here for both?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
I can make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of January 16th and January 26th.
Moved and seconded. If there's no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Approved. We have some liquor license applications. Stewart's Shop, Inn at Ormsby Hill, Nature's Market, Manchester Jolly, Northshire Hospitality, Raven's Den. Various different classes. Some of them are outside consumption. No issues on any of these?
No, no.
Make a motion to approve the liquor license renewals for Stewart's, Inn and Ordsby, Nature's Market, Manchester Jolly, North Shore Hospitality, and Ravens Den.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
And those are approved. And I think that's all we have to do on those now.
That's it, yeah.
We have vendor license applications, or one application. And it's for Nan Z. No changes on that.
No changes. It's an annual application also.
Been there for years. Must be our oldest vendor by far.
She didn't tell us her age.
Longevity.
is, Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. Is the requirement to move their cart or trailer actually in the ordinance as far as you know?
It is, yeah.
It is? Okay. Because at some point I'm gonna we're gonna talk about it, see if we can get it on the agenda about making the change. I personally just think it's ridiculous to have hound dogs have to pull his cart out of there every night. And some of them may want to. But you know, for.
Yeah, I think if you have
security
a
reasons.
smaller cart like Nancy,
Yeah.
you're not gonna wanna leave it there because somebody will run off with it.
Yeah, and they may not want to do it, but I think, I see the process, and somebody like that has been here for so long, and I don't know
Well,
if that really affects.
let's
other-
deal with the one before us.
Yeah, no, that would be later on down the line.
Is there a motion on this?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the annual vending license application for Nancy's Carts.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Look at us go.
I love it.
Personnel policy review.
So our personnel policy is extremely outdated. And so we've started the process of putting together this new one. And we've sat down with the League of Cities and Towns, and Bonnie and I have worked on it with Jill Muir from the league. And so the next steps are, tonight, you guys hopefully will address these key issues. And then when we have that, we will put them into the amended proposed policy and then send it to an attorney that specializes in this type of thing, human resources, personnel policy. And then they will come back to us and say, you know, you need this language inserted here and you can't put this language in and things like that. And then after we get that all fixed, then it comes back to you for, hopefully for possible approval. And if you wanted to make another change at that time, you could do so. But we just got to get it to the attorneys because that takes a little bit of a time to do. So you do have the policy itself, and then you have some key questions. You'll see the first one, the probationary period, that's been changed to 90, down from 180 days. It can be extended by the town manager if needed. Generally, 90's been the average for most municipalities, and we haven't seen a need to go the 180 days. The police department and dispatch, police department is different. They do have to go longer, but that's separate from the personnel policy. Any questions on that one? I'm just gonna keep going until you guys start going. Okay, reimbursement rates, we basically put in there they'll be changed, they can be changed annually, because the old ones basically say, like $15 for dinner. So like, if people go down to the city, you can't really get much for $15. I don't think even McDonald's can cover that anymore, but, so anyways, it needs to be adjusted, but at least if we put it in this way, we can adjust it on an annual basis.
God, how do we know if anybody's on?
We do have several people, Anita, Eric Severance, and Keegan Douglas are on.
Okay,
I tried to put the other TV on and they both went blank.
Okay.
But I'd
that's fine.
say it's something that's working for the moment, but I can tell you anytime if someone's on
Okay.
and if you want to know. Excuse me. The next one, number 3, is conflict of interest. And there's just some language change in there, but the gift limit is being increased from 25 to 50. And that's just because it seems like gifts that people give are generally at that level or higher than 25. You know, a box of chocolates or something nowadays is about that. So holiday leave, we proposed an added Juneteenth holiday, which is a federal holiday. There'd be no other changes to the listed holidays, but that would be just one additional added holiday. Juneteenth falls on June 19th, whenever that falls. But,
I think it's a Wednesday.
okay. I haven't looked beyond this week yet, so I'm not sure. Number 5, vacation leave. So right down below that, you'll see what we have currently. It's kind of a little bit convoluted. And it changes after one, you know, you go from 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15. There's different changes and we tried to group them a little bit easier. And so you have 0 to 5, which is the same, 6 to 10 now at 18 days, 11 to 15 at 20, and then 15 plus at 25. I didn't think you need to go more than that. Certainly 25 is very generous.
Seems simpler.
Just to 50, don't come in.
Should be retired, right? I don't know. Earned sick time, number 6. So it has a little bit of language change, but it also says that the sick leave is to be forfeited upon termination, either voluntary or if you're let go. But sick time accrues the same because it's a state statute. So there's no change in the amount of sick time you accrue. Incentive pay, that's the unused sick time. And basically you had that in there, I believe, to encourage people to take vacations and not use their vacation time. And that works pretty well for the most part. And we just bumped that up from 300 to 400. I don't know if that makes much of a difference in anything, but overtime and comp time. This last one is a little bit tricky. We're still working with attorneys on this, and the Department of Labor. Bonnie actually checked with the state today on things. What we have, they're changing, the limit for exempt employees. So before, there was a lower threshold for the amount that people could earn as a salary, as wages, hourly wages. And then above that, if you were above that level and you had management capabilities, responsibilities, you may fall into the exempt category. If someone's in an exempt category, they can't earn comp time, and their responsibilities are different than someone on an hourly basis. So the state is anticipating a raise in that level of wage earnings this year. So they're kind of send that out to all the towns in anticipation of that. But most of our department heads that this would affect are already above that threshold. So there's really not that much of a concern there. So the question that we're trying to get answered, and I don't have it in front of me because I don't have the answer yet, is there's certain department heads that are earning overtime now, are eligible, according to our personnel policy, to earn overtime, and they do, and it's well earned. But if they're considered an exempt employee, they wouldn't be able to do it. So we're working through that. I'll have the answers for that when we come back with this next time, because the HR attorney will lead us more on that. So you have the whole package. Is there anything in here that jumped out to you that we wanted to talk about that I didn't touch on?
The only other thing, Scott, can I just note is that typically we've been allowing staff to roll over their comp time.
All right.
With this change, it's going to, because typically we're giving an increase, at the beginning of a fiscal year. We will be paying out their comp time at the end of the previous fiscal year, because, we could be paying, if they're rolling over comp time, we could be paying them at a rate that is higher and more costly for the town if they continue to roll it over. So at the end of each fiscal year, they would get paid out of their comp time would get paid out, and then they could start earning it again for the following year.
That's a good point. I forgot to mention that. So comp time's accrued based on your earnings that year. So if you, in the past, you were able to just continue and roll it over, but you get a raise July 1st, so you're earning comp time at a higher level. And so it's a comp time that's a blended rate. So now we're paying it out so you don't carry it over. So you either use it or you get paid out, but you're starting at zero July 1st.
Well, the highlight in yellow is what the new part that you're sending in. So if you go to page 16.
Yep.
Accrued sick leave, you have the word accused, not accrued.
Saw that.
Okay.
Guilty.
We didn't comb through this like we did the town report.
Okay.
We had many eyes in that town report. Yeah, any accrued sick time will be forfeited at the time of termination. So those, yes. To answer your question, yes.
I just thought,
Yeah,
I want to send it in. on
Thanks
the
for
16.
So you'll be seeing this again. I don't know how quickly it'll be back to you, but I'm hoping, as soon as we can, just because it does create a certain liability for us out there if something happens, so.
What's the best kind of practices for updating these things, and how is it?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's generally, best practice, you should review this once a year. It doesn't usually happen.
Right.
If something changes in your structure, that usually triggers you to look at the whole thing.
Right.
Rather than just make one change. So, I think, if we get this done, it should hold us for a few years, but we should look at it every year and just double check, with the league.
I don't know when we last looked at this.
2011.
It's been
It's-
10 years.
2011 was the
That's
one.
how it is on
Oh, that, yeah.
the one that I signed, and every single line available.
With a lot of staff coming on, it's a good time, people are literally looking at it to really learn and understand, the town, and what we're supposed to be doing. So we're raising a lot of questions. So that's, we kind of noticed that it's time to do it that.
For each board.
It's been a while.
It's kind of redundant.
Yeah.
Bonnie, Thomas West has joined also. So you've got Anita, Eric Keegan, and Thomas West now.
Anything else on the personnel policy? If there's nothing, the next item is the bid from the town's RFP for a pump station at the Hayes Estates. And
So you'll be dealing with this as sewer commissioners?
yeah, do we need to,
It's been done both ways. I've seen boards say enter into sewer commissioners, but I think you had something come up earlier this year and you didn't.
we didn't do it?
Yeah.
I mean,
If this requires a vote, which I think we should,
if it requires an action.
if it requires an action.
Right, I don't think we need to do that tonight. If we do, we could go into it at that point if you want.
Let's just
Yeah,
switch hats and go.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll do.
All right, so in your package, you did see a copy or at least one page of our RFP we put out. This is for the Hayes Estate wastewater pumping station. And basically, it was kind of a undefined RFP because it was hard to say what needed to be done in there. So we were basically asking for their advice as they submitted a response to the RFP. We only got one response, as you might imagine, and it was fairly high because they just wanted to cover themselves in case there were some issues and they weren't really sure what they were getting into. So Eric, who's online here also, Eric and I and Chrissy Haskins talked about this afterwards, and Chrissy had a couple of really good suggestions. And so one of them is to do this, and it's going to be up to you if you want to decide to move forward with that. So the idea being that we've got to extend the wastewater line down down the road further anyways, all the way to Union Street or beyond. And that's been in our long-range plans. And if and when that happens, this pump station will not be needed any longer. Everything will be connected to the wastewater line. So Chrissy's thought was that we do a planning study now to see what this whole project might cost. And so we have better knowledge of what the system will need for improvements, much like we did out front here, or you guys did out front here before doing this construction. So there's two avenues for the planning grant if we want to go this route. One is through the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund. In order to do that, there's several hoops that we have to go through, but it does make you eligible for a 50% loan forgiveness for the cost of that. And basically what happens is a lot of towns and cities in the state apply for this. You get on a list, and they have a funding list that goes down so far till the funding runs out. And then if you're below that cut line, you don't get any funding unless somebody drops out above you. The other option for the to pay for the planning grant is to just do it out of our sewer commissioners sewer capital fund, which is what you probably did out front. And that's probably costs about half of what the other planning grant would. And I asked Chrissy just for ballpark figures, so we can't hold them to that, but that's about $18,000, she said. Whereas the other route would be about $30,000. And again, ballpark figures. So if you want to proceed in down that path, we can put something together for a proposal and come back to you, sewer commissioners, and to see if that's the way you want to go. I mean, we know this wouldn't happen right away. It wouldn't be, this is a long-term plan, but that is part of the long-term plan is to move the wastewater line out there. Let me see if Eric wants to join in and sing. Eric, you want to?
I'm here, Scott.
Okay,
The only clarification I wanted to say was that sewer main down towards Cass Terrace and Carlin Street. It's been on the books for a long time and it's necessary, I feel, for our water aquifer. At some point, I think it's even been mentioned by the state that's the reasoning behind extending down Richville Road. And then if and when that was ever done, it may or may not negate the Hayes pump station, the necessity of it. And then would we want to spend a whole lot of money on the Hayes pumping station now if at some point we were going to do away with it?
so that leads us to the second point that I hadn't made yet, that Eric just reminded me of is, so what do we do now when we assume this property in this pumping station, this responsibility? So Chrissy's suggestion was to possibly purchase, when we acquire the system, to buy a couple cutter pumps, which would eliminate the need for someone to climb down into the hole every day and to clear things out.
And that, just so people understand, that is happening every day.
About twice a week, I think.
Okay.
Twice to 3 times a week. I think Kenny has to do that.
Yeah.
And the RFP came back. They threw a Cadillac upgrade at us. So they gave us all the bells and whistles and great big 3-phase, 5 horsepower 3-phase pumps, where there's presently 1.5 horsepower pumps there. I mean, I would like to see something a little bigger, but we could probably get by with something not as big as 5 horsepower.
Do you think this response to our RFP took into consideration potential expansion of the use of that pump station? Because
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
Eric, would we put on, or there's a possibility to put everybody on Carlin and Liebrook if we went all the way out to Cass Terrace? Could we hook them all up?
Potentially, yes. There would have to be a pump station down there, and you could have a pump station down there and keep the Hayes pump station where it is and keep it in service. I mean, from an operator's point of view, I would prefer to have less pump stations, as few as possible, but just because of the potential, when they fail problems.
I got a question for you, Eric. How many privately owned pump stations do we have hooked into our system?
I ought to sit down and count those up. I can think of probably close to a half a dozen.
Wow, okay.
Riverside Townhouses, Haynes Manor, Bournebrook, Murray Hill. If I think about it, I can probably think of a couple more.
Okay, that answers my question though.
Other
So
municipalities prefer to own the pump station. You go to a place like Stratton, I forget the numbers, but they have into the teens of pumping stations that they maintain.
Are there federal dollars for a project like this in addition to state?
We would be,
If we were to.
if we go through if we went through the Clean Water Fund, we would be competing with all other towns' projects. So I can't tell you, I mean, that's how the state funnels the federal dollars.
It's the federal.
It is the federal dollar.
It is, right.
And then I was just thinking the cost benefit of taking it out there is to get as many as we can on the system.
Right near the aquifer.
Yeah. And that would not be that would just be sewer, or it would be water and sewer going all the way out.
Eric, how far does that water run out?
Our water presently serves Cass Terrace and Carlin Street,
Oh, it goes all the way out already.
but
Okay.
it is due for upgrade, the section from Union Street to Cass Terrace. You could combine the water and sewer project, or you could do them one at a time at different times. But the priority was to get as many of those homes and properties that are sitting on top of the aquifer connected to the municipal system.
That should be a priority. I'd say we do it at great expense, and I'll leave the board and let the town cope with it later. That's a joke.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Scott, my head. So I mean, if the sewer commissioners are, up for this, then we can start preparing something and bring it back to you so that we can move forward on it if you choose to.
It seems to make more sense than 200,000.
Do we have,
for just a pump system.
Yeah.
an expected date as to when we might be owning this?
Well, it's funny you ask. So just yesterday, probate judge Lon McClintock was in the building here, completing his title work. And he should be getting title insurance for the whole package over there. And that was one of the main hurdles we had to do. The other one we have to do is a Title 19 proceeding, which involves us. And we have to give 30 days notice to all the property owners. And then we will hold a public hearing to determine whether we should acquire the road or not. If it's in the best interest of the public interest at that point. It's just like acquiring any other road, but we know we're going to do it because we've already agreed to it. So we have to hold this hearing. And then if there was anybody opposing it, they could show up at that time too.
Yeah.
So those are two. I think there's one other outstanding thing that the attorneys are working on, but we're seeing progress. That was the word that was used yesterday, progress. So that's good.
So no matter what happens, there's going to be a time period where we're going to be in charge of that existing pump station. And probably responsible for any maintenance that's ongoing there, before we can even get this project in the works.
And liabilities when there are problems with it.
Yeah.
Correct. But Eric, if we got those, how long would it take to acquire and install those cutter pumps?
I don't think very long.
Yeah, I thought Chrissy thought it was almost off the shelf type of thing. I
Yeah,
asked her join, but she didn't make it tonight, apparently.
What do you need from us?
Just a general consensus to move forward with this, and then I'll bring back to you, a proposal to move forward, and then you can vote on it at that time.
I mean,
Everybody's head nodding, I'll take that as a yes.
Got to do something with it.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right. We're already down to the town manager updates. Look at us go.
Love it.
we should really see if we can break a record.
Never count the chickens.
I know, exactly. Always when you say that, it's like.
So in your packet, you have another report of the circuit expenses. After the way the last meeting ended, there was a lot of confusion, a lot of questions, and we kind of accelerated through the end of that meeting. And I've got that as another point to talk about in a few minutes, but I just felt it important that you understand where we are on the CERC balances right now. And what the commitments, what outstanding commitments we have out there. So if you have that in front of you, you'll see that what's remaining outside commitments still not expended is the resurfacing of the tennis courts, which we're working on right now. So that money will be used. There was a town match for park improvements of 25,000. That has gone away, that particular improvement. have either been made and finished or not done. So that's kind of outstanding right at the moment, that commitment. And then there's one more rec park improvements of 25,000, and that was part of a package when the basketball courts and the skate park were redone. So it was kind of lumped in there, and that's what's remaining for that commitment. Having said all that, you'll see at the splash pad under FY '22, we only have 20,000 hanging out there for a commitment towards that. And while we don't have a firm estimate on the splash pad, we were looking at a possibility of between $80,000 and $100,000 needed for our 50-50 match. If we took those other 25 commitments that are hanging out there, added to the 20,000 committed to the splash pad, that gives us about within shouting distance of being there for that match. That grant award ends at the end of this calendar year, the splash pad. Gliding down, you'll see the rail trail. We've committed 50,000 for improving, making improvements and maintaining parts of the rail trail. That was brought to my attention last month when I met with the rail trail group, just talking about things and maintenance and other things like that. So that's now added to that, which I don't think was on there before.
Can I ask a question while you're on the rail trail?
Yeah, sure, I guess.
Wasn't there supposed to be a bridge that was built on that trail?
That
And
changed.
Brunswick was supposed to take care of that?
There is a bridge.
Huh?
There is a bridge, but the question was about widening it.
Widening the bridge,
Yeah.
Oh, that was never done.
that may be in the 50,
Well,
I can't remember.
I just bring it up because it's something that was
Yeah,
in my head.
I'm running it through my memory banks right now to try to organize my thoughts, and we went through a number of renditions on the upgrade to that bridge. And I know as it turned out, it was a few inches shy of what should be the normal width, and I can't really remember what the deal was, but it wasn't gonna be that expensive to gain that extra width to bring it into compliance, and I'm not sure whose regulations that was for either. The old $1.5 million bridge went away because we didn't use federal dollars to purchase the rail trail and upgrade it. Because that was to come into compliance with federal regulations. And it changed from a $1.5 million project to a few bucks.
I thought we were trying to accommodate the bush hog thing.
No,
Was that-
the side by side was
The-
to get that over.
Be able to.
Was that what it was?
We were,
Equipment.
yeah, we were
Yeah.
trying to be able to not have to move is that called brush hog or a bush hog?
It's a side by side. I think it was for emergency purposes.
Well, now, it could be the brush hog.
It was
for
the
doing
brush hog.
for doing
The ATVs can get across it.
Yeah,
It was the mower thing
Oh,
that they didn't want to have to transport it
to the other end.
to the other end to maintain it.
There's two bridges, so you're probably talking about the gap in between the two bridges.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I think that we just said, we don't have to do that right now, and that we'll just transport the machine as needed. It's a once a year type of deal, I think.
So the other thing that the rail trail committee, a group, I should say, not a committee, is talking about is the trailhead in North Road. So we're meeting out there with them in the spring, early spring, and talking about making improvements out there with some better signage, a little bit better parking, some logs or something to stop cars from rolling off the parking, a lot of things like that. But there are ways to make it a little more attractive and safer for people, because that's used quite a bit out there. A lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
people park there.
Very popular.
So having gone through that, and the dump truck was not listed the last time I think you saw it. Now it is, because that was voted on last town meeting. So adding those all up, you see them, my handwritten notes down the bottom. The current adjusted balance shows 954,677. And that takes into account the possible loan forgiveness of the rec department of 98,140. So if you remember, yeah, I did give you the sheet too, the Charles Schwab sheet.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So on that, it shows in the comments section on the CERC, it shows the 98,140. It's there.
Mhm.
But if you go down to the rec reserve balance, you'll see a cash balance of 58,900. And so the thought was possibly to give that loan from the rec department over to CERC.
Mhm.
Assuming that's done, you'll see my continued balance down the bottom because we've just asked the vote, or we're asking the voters to approve 150,000 for the second police dispatch center.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then if you add up the remaining commitments on the right-hand column, we get 105,000. And so your net adjusted balance would be just a hair under 700,000.
Hopefully to be boosted soon by sale of a property.
If that's the fund it goes into.
Part of it.
Well, a piece of
Part of
it, but, yeah. Thank you for ferreting that all out. Yeah, that's,
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of confusion I felt. I think you needed to know where, I wanted to know where we stood too. And we did change the title of that local option tax capital fund. It's actually the property tax relief fund. So
Good.
there's less confusion with that too.
Does the money allocated for the resurfacing cover the removal of the arborvitae? And subsequent removal of the stumps?
That's,
That gonna be an extra expense?
no, that'll be our expense. We're doing that in-house.
Okay,
You're talking about the tennis courts, Kim?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the arborvitae had died on the inside, believe it or not, because of all the trimming. And yet they were falling onto the courts constantly, causing a lot of slippage and dangerous conditions. And also their roots were starting to pop up
Yeah,
under the tennis courts.
right.
So we've gotten rid of those, but we're gonna move forward with resurfacing. And the goal is to get a good court in place, including pickleball. Because that's up and coming and growing really fast. And we have a dedicated group of pickleball players there. It could be a great benefit for them.
They currently are playing on the basketball courts.
Right, right.
Which they will continue to do. This will just be an addition.
Sure, right. But then they could host like little tournaments or something like that over there. And it'd be less windy over there because they're going to put up wind screens along like tennis court fences.
There was a lot of concern about the arborvitae removal. I don't know if people came in to see you about it.
I had one complaint.
There were a lot of people online that mentioned it,
Yeah.
especially people from out of town. There's one from Troy who was concerned.
Right. I don't know if they knew what I just told you, that they were dying on the inside and they
I tried
had,
to make a stab at pointing that out,
did you online? Yeah,
all the various reasons.
good for you.
It was fun.
Brave.
and while we're on very close to discussing the topic of the property tax relief fund, in the budget that we approved it.
Speak up a little.
I'm sorry, talking about the property tax relief fund, we approved an amount to be used to, as revenue in this proposed budget. Here, totaling, 1.425 million.
All right, okay.
And included in that number is the 50,000 that goes to the MBA. Is that correct?
No, the 50,000 is in our budget.
The 50,000 that we're spending on the MBA is.
Yes, right.
There's no revenue number on there reflecting the transfer of the money from the.
Yeah, it's in here.
Is it?
Yeah. Where is it?
And a general.
Yeah, it should be under.
We put it in here.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Yeah, I think Mike said that last meeting too.
let's see. I'll find it.
Right here, that's on page 31. Manchester Business Association, 50,000.
What line?
1890, 01, 1890.
That's
Is
the,
that's.
Right here.
That's,
What line is it?
Yeah,
that's the 50,000 in the expenses that we're
Expense piece.
expensing out. But what we're
Yeah.
not showing is the transfer in from the, if you look at it, that's supposed to be paid out of the,
general fund.
No,
no, it's supposed to be, the
Oh.
deal with them was always have it be paid out of the
Local option
tax
tax.
relief fund.
Yeah,
That was a direct transfer from, because the
Okay, because with
Because
this.
the rationale for that was
Yeah, I get it.
that they're working hard to
That's what they're
generate money that
driving.
goes into that relief fund, so
Right,
to
right, right.
money directly out of that. But that's not the way we're doing it in this budget.
Okay,
That's coming out of general expenses and there's no revenue transfer.
I
And
think you brought that up one time before, didn't
I
you?
did.
I'm trying to think of what Mike's answer was. Because it was my understanding it was coming right from the general fund. But
Okay.
Let me get an answer
Well,
for you.
yeah, I mean, it is,
don't
it
Speculate.
it appears to me that what we approved was a transfer from the general fund,
right, but
50,000 MBA.
but technically we should be taking it from, what we should be
But
transferring from.
but the
local-
problem is, when you look at the balance of the property tax relief fund, if we're transferring another 50,000 out of that, at least this,
It's not good.
yeah, at least it's not good.
Maybe we did right by doing it the way we
Maybe,
did.
perhaps.
Okay.
So I guess, my point is, if somebody asks, we should probably have the answer to that.
169, yeah,
Yeah, because it'd be down to 119.
yeah.
Well, unless we transfer money in, if our
If it
option
goes-
taxes
goes well.
perform very well.
Yeah,
It like they're supposed to.
So I got an update on that today. I didn't bring it with me tonight. I put it in for next meeting, but I can just tell you about that. It's been steady. It's right on the same track. And one of the things I did check was I went back and looked at the last 3 quarters, and then I compared that to the last 3 quarters of last year and the last 3 quarters of the year before, just to see if there wasn't, because Mike was concerned a little bit about the number of sales reports being submitted to the state. There was a $2,000 number of reports that were reported in September's ending quarter, and now there's 2,000 less
Wow.
December 31st. And I called John at Better Business or Manchester Business. I called John today. I said, where do you think this is from? Because we were trying to figure it out, and he wasn't really sure either. He double checked some of his figures, and they matched up. So it could be just maybe a mistake. He says if it's a mistake, you want to go after them because they're charging you a fee for each one of the reports.
Right.
But anyways, the monies that we're receiving is very much on track with what we anticipated. So adding those up and projecting it out through the end of the year with one more quarter, it would look like, even with that 1425 in there, Ivan, it still would be about a little under 100,000 wiggle room.
Okay. That's good. I mean, we really do need to build that reserve fund.
Mhm.
And it can be gradual.
100 would be good.
Yeah.
Good start.
Hundreds a great start.
But I guess we have to make a mental note that going forward, we actually make we should have a
Offsetting,
offsetting line in this.
coming from,
I think that was the way that it was proposed and
Yeah.
kind of sold to the, I won't say sold, the way that it was explained to the taxpayers. And I want to make sure that we're consistent with the way that we address that.
It's really just an accounting mechanism, but it's important to have it. I agree with you. That would look better to have that. right under that local option taxes
Mhm.
part. It's very true.
That would be the easiest way to find it.
Yeah,
I mean, the other way, you could show it as a revenue over here in the general, as a transfer.
right.
Right.
All right, I'll find out the answer to that anyways, get back to you, and then we'll be ready for a town meeting with that. And then just the final piece of that, was the ARPA money. Because there was some projects that have been completed and they still were showing a balance outstanding, so just pulled it all together so you can have a better idea of where we stand. And then down the bottom, it shows you the commitments, the emergency river and flood mitigation of commitment, possibly 200,000. The 50,000 for the Riverwalk pedestrian bridge, which seems to be moving forward again.
Good.
Had a couple meetings this week on that, so that would be nice. And then the remaining 164,249 for the police dispatch console. We may have to request another 30 to 35,000 for that, because apparently the actual construction part of it was not included in that number that you used so handily at the last meeting. So we may be back, so there is a little 40,000 you can see, so please don't spend any more ARPA money yet.
Okay, so that ARPA balance, the 464 minus the 414 is the true balance. Okay,
Uncommitted.
so we have some wiggle room, and
we
that's to our discretion anyway.
Correct. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to spend it by the end of the year.
We have to commit it by the end of the year. We have 2 more years to spend it.
But we should hang on for the
Yeah,
console.
leaving it to make sure we have enough
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
dispatch.
yeah. Nobody asked for it.
Yeah, I'll just make that clear.
Don't make any commitments. If you're all set with that, I'll move on to B, item B.
Okay.
So we had, the environmental test conducted over at the Depot Street properties, because of that phase 2 concern. And Paul Miller has been doing that for us. He gave us preliminary results, the other day to Gordon. They had 6 wells and 5 vapor tests done. They had 1 small hit on a vapor test, but no petroleum at all. And the small hit was tetracycline, something to do with the dry cleaning business. So that would have wafted down a hair. But he says it's a very good report
Okay.
as far as what we're hoping to do.
We like good.
You're
very
talking now about the cleaners.
Near the Depot Street property, near the Depot Street
Some
property.
of there used to be the dry cleaning place at the end of the shopping center, and some of the chemicals from what they were doing have leached onto the town-owned property.
Well, it's leached onto my property too.
Oh, that was the other dry cleaner up,
That's the other one.
yeah, up in the center, yeah.
Yeah. And so they drilled holes. And I guess so far so good on my property. You know, they didn't report back to me any concerned leakage.
Good.
That's good news. And we have good news on our property also.
Yeah, because
So,
see,
let's have a party.
I bordered that area. That's good.
So what's the next steps for?
So the next step is getting that written report, and then he is going to, as part of that report, make suggestions or recommendations to the state. And basically, what he told us is that he would recommend doing a second test, but only just for that particular thing at that hit spot, at the spot that was designated as showing something. How far down the road will you do that, another month? Or do you wait 3 months? And I told him, we're in a little time constraint in trying to sell the property. And so he's going to make a shorter recommendation to the state. So it's up to them to accept it. If they accept it, we make the other test, everything looks good. We get our smack letter, we can consummate the sale.
Great.
That's the Factory Point Square property where the cleaners is down below.
No, this is
Now where J. Crew
down
is.
where the town property is.
Location,
Yeah,
okay.
there used to be the dry cleaner in the end of the Price Chopper shopping center.
Yeah, I remember.
And some of those chemicals have
Oh,
leached onto the
that's
town
different site.
property down there. It's a different
Different site.
site.
I
Yeah.
got it. I can't follow as quickly as you, but I'm behind you.
So moving on to item C, if you're ready. So tonight, this is not a problem, but if you remember last meeting, you generally get pushed and you end up making difficult discussions and difficult decisions in the last 15 minutes of your meetings. And it's a rush. It seems like it's a rush to me to do these important decisions at that point. Now, a couple ways we can deal with it if you choose to deal with it at all. One is to limit like the public comment section to, 5 minutes per person or something like that, which would shorten that segment and allow you to get into the items that are on the agenda. The other thing that I've seen happen before is to set a time, not limits, but time associated with each item.
Yeah, I tried that once. I used to go down the agenda.
Did it work out?
I mean, I could never.
Yeah, no, we used it too. It didn't work either. Select board members don't want to be restrained that way, so that's fine. So those are just my thoughts. I just hated to see how we ended last meeting with,
We got it done
we
though.
got it
We got
done.
it done. I think, the chair can do a better job of, if I, on my agenda, put down the times when I think that we ought to allocate each one of these things, I can do a better job of managing the discussion. So, that's something that we could do that would help a lot. What I don't want to do is disenfranchise the people that are here from being able to make comments. But we could set a limit on the public comment thing at the beginning.
I don't see where you guys have a problem.
I don't think we do either.
Well, I can
There.
keep you on task if it starts to get a
Yeah,
little, I'll just
you
kick
do.
you. I'll just,
Feel whatever public comment, and that doesn't include me. I mean, I'm not speaking for myself, but if anybody comes here to say something, they should be heard.
Yes, I agree.
Period.
It may be before public comments, Mr. Chairman, that we maybe lay out some ground rules, though, such that if there's a redundant comment, please refrain from making any redundant comments if you.
I don't know. I'm with Sylvia. I don't know if we've had a big problem there.
I know, I think you.
It's in situations like the cell tower
Yeah.
discussion that
Yeah.
we're going over some of the same territory. And it's just a matter of your ability to cut that up down.
I can do that.
Yes. Well, I know with Heidi's.
I'll help you.
Yeah.
Timekeeper.
Depending on how many,
Jan,
It's that we heard that.
how many people
Yeah.
are
Excuse
here.
me, but we've heard that.
yeah, right.
Sorry.
You see, you were a school teacher and in charge of a bunch of unruly students, of which I was one. And you did a very good job of keeping us all in line.
Ivan.
Okay, I've been told to move it on.
All right, good job, Heidi. Here we go. All right, down to item D. So the town office, we had a blower test conducted last week. And we got preliminary report back already, which shows what you might suspect. It's a very leaky building. It's lacking in insulation, it's lacking in roof, insulation and louvers and brick exposures, and there's a lot of open door, there's a lot of things on that report that we've got.
Yeah.
So, it's not a complete report yet, because they have to come back and do a couple more things. And when we get the complete report, we'll give it to you. But we have actually used some of the material already. Gordon and Harl Buckle are working on a grant application right now, which has a March 1st deadline, and they're going to use that information for our application. So we'll see where that goes.
And on a related topic, what happened with the new boiler? Did you, I know we're moving forward.
It's sitting on the floor right now,
Yeah.
soon to be installed.
And did you get any clarification on propane versus oil?
Yes, we did. So it can be converted to propane. It's not being converted to propane at this time because we just don't know what direction we're gonna go in for this building.
Other thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. That'll be interesting to see the recommendations from the audit.
Yeah, I mean, they had an infrared gun in here and it's just in this room here, particularly, those were skylights that just got plywood boarded, put up over. Then the end,
Yeah.
you see those two louvers, those are partially open all the time.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Jesus.
yeah, two of the pieces of plywood didn't get painted.
Well, I tell you, you have a big draft coming in here. That's why I button up.
I had a blower test done on my house and they just threw their hands up and said,
Forget it.
your house leaks. We can't help you anything here.
Well, we have a lot of good suggestions in there and I'll get you that report as soon as it's completed.
Is the energy committee being helpful in kind of coming up with?
Yeah, there was two of them here during the whole blower test.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I like that energy committee.
Yeah.
And I know that they'll be on top of money from Efficiency Vermont and incentive programs. So if we get a recommendation to do things, that'll
So-
be interesting.
Getting back to my question on the budget, I went back and I researched last year.
Yeah.
And, cause I didn't remember that ever showing up as a direct transfer anywhere else. And it never has been. I think anecdotally, we're saying, well, that's coming out of the option taxes. And realistically, it makes no difference. I mean, we're gonna take 1.425 million. 50,000 of that we can say is going toward MBA, and it is because it's going toward everything that's in the general fund. So there's never been a direct accounting of that,
Okay,
at least in the last couple of years.
okay, it's good to know.
And
Because we just moved it recently, right? Within the last few years. It used to be,
it was a
voted.
voted appropriation and we moved it into the budget. Were you here when we did
I
that?
was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 years
Yeah, it's
ago,
been a
maybe
few- it's been a
right
few
in the
years.
beginning of Heidi's.
Mhm.
But I mean, I don't ever remember us accounting for it in the
In that fact.
Okay.
body of the budget proposal. So, I think it was just, okay, well, that first year we'll bump up the amount that this is what I'm recalling now, we'll bump it up by 50,000
That,
and that kind of, and then we've carried that forward in our budgets.
all right.
Do you want it to show under that?
As long as I can explain it, if somebody asks, and I'll go back and look at previous, I got the budgets at home. I'll go back and look and see when the MBA changed from a voted appropriation. And I'm pretty sure there would be a corresponding bump in the
In the amount of that,
amount that we're taking from the option.
yeah, even just three years ago, there was considerably less.
Yeah,
moved, So,
yeah, and I think that was
About
the
that.
bump.
Yeah.
That was the.
okay. So that's all I have from my updates.
Is there other business here at the table?
Yes, I have something actually that I would like to make a request from the board. I spoke with a concerned citizen this week, concerned again about the speed in town and in particular here on 7A coming into town. And he's brought it up several times. He's a very kind gentleman, had brought it up to John O'Keefe, had brought it up to Leslie. Pinged Scott early in his career, so hadn't come back to him now that he's up and running. And he really kind of wanted to make the suggestion at a time when we're getting ready to repave, to do the final paving of this road. I also feel that the Vermont Country Store is going to come back Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday during the week. So it's going to be another 150 folks coming back to work on this street. We have the Northshire Daycare, which is extremely busy, drop off and pick up. Vermont Country Store,
Health center.
the health center. We have the new housing, Bill's new housing. We also have the possibility of a new hotel or different things coming this way.
Police, fire, rescue.
Police, fire, rescue. So it is getting, I travel it obviously every day. And with the amount of cars, I just think it might be a good idea for us to do the same study that we did coming in on Route 30 from, you know, like basically from the rec park into town, do the speed study and maybe come up with some ideas on how we can slow the traffic down. My suggestion that I'd like to see happen is to actually have the 25 mile per hour and 35 mile per hour signs moved out, but I know that's, you know, there's things we can do and things we can't do, and, right.
Is it a state
Where-
highway?
It's a state highway, but we have control of it, I believe, on that whole stretch.
I think we do. Yeah.
They used to maintain that all the way in, I believe. And in one of our negotiations, we took over the maintenance of that, and they actually gave us that highway. But they took on a whole bunch of other stuff. It was a win for us in a lot of ways. But since our plow trucks were running that stretch anyways, first of all, they paved it for us where they turned it over to us. It is a state highway, but I think it's municipally controlled.
I'll see.
And we used to have discussions with them about the speed limits. And I think when we took ownership of it, we actually dropped them because they were reluctant to do that because of the design of the highway, the width, the shoulders, the straightness of it. Anytime you get into those discussions, and you probably had them with the DOT, they talk a lot about the design of the highway and the speed that people feel comfortable doing. And you have a hard time controlling speeds with just speed limits. There has to be other speed controls put in place, or people will drive the speed that they're comfortable. We ran into that on Route 30 also. But if I tend to drive, oddly enough, I paid attention, slower than the speed limit through there. Once I get out of the 25. So it may work.
I think that's because naturally you feel like you're still in town
Yeah,
for a little bit.
yeah.
And I think,
I paid attention to that the other day.
I think the daycare
Huh.
kind of does that.
I
too, if you
rarely
know
do I
it's there.
find myself going under the speed limit.
Well, and plus, since we're going to be paving, you know, that's a good time for if there are certain lines that can be made that just, I don't, you know, whatever all the tricks are
I
that you
think
can
it's,
pull
is
out
it
of.
45 now?
It becomes.
It's 25, 35, and then 45.
And 45, which means 30, 40, and 50 is what people usually travel.
Yeah.
I had 10.
You had to.
No, at 10.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, anywhere between 5
For
and
the
10.
most part, it's adding time.
Yeah, not 5.
That's what people are experiencing.
Mhm.
And the other point that was brought up was just an image, you know, the town image, that Palmer House is very busy all the time and folks like to walk. That's why they stay in hotels that are in town. They like to walk downtown. And it can, you know, the speed doesn't drop way down until you get around the corner where you're told that you're being bad, right? On the flashing light.
Buddy.
So I think,
I think it got
just is a-
changed. It's not naughty and nice.
yeah.
It was seasonal.
Yeah, right.
Actually, my wife said, if you're going over, it should say WGAF.
So anyway, I just thought I would share, you know, I obviously
Getting that in.
during my current process, I am getting a lot of people reaching out with different things and I will share them during this time.
Yeah.
As I get
That's a
them.
good idea.
We should look at it. There's a lot going on this street. There's a lot being added to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, the future of the street, just, you know, obviously with the hotel potential here, that's a lot more traffic in the future. So if whatever we can do to get ahead of it instead of answering to it later would be great.
So I could get our regional planning commission to do a study for us out there. I think that would be good to have some facts
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
information that way with suggestions. They usually come up with decent suggestions for traffic calming and in addition to numbers to determine whether we need to lower the speed limit or not.
Wasn't the sidewalk put in to control traffic? And you have sidewalk up to here, so the traffic from here into town should be at a reasonable speed. Due to that fact alone, we have a sidewalk. People are walking. Careful, slow down.
We have the speed bumps out there, artificial speed bumps right now, but they're gonna go away in the spring, so.
Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
There it is. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
What?
We are adjourned.
Amazing.
Wait, wait.
That's gotta be.
That's gotta be.